Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Today we're going to be working on a reel that's a modern day equivalent of a trade reel. That is, the brand that's on the side of it is not manufactured by those folks. Rather, they go and procure these reels to be made for them under their brand. And this one is by Jigging World, and Jigging World is a tackle retailer around us. This one is called a Karasu. And it says micro jigging 1000H. So today we're going to show you how the reel is made, and we're also going to discuss an approach to servicing reels where you can't get the information on, don't know who made the reel, have no place to send it to, and yet you want to keep it maintained, want to keep it fishing at its optimal, and well, you don't want it to fail at a critical point along the way. So we'll show you how to take this reel apart, point out some of those milestones that are consistent with good service practices throughout, and we will try to service this reel for our customer. If you like these kinds of videos, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel. Subscriptions don't cost you anything, and yet you'll learn an awful lot from them. You'll see all kinds of fishing reels being serviced and repaired. You'll learn a little bit about fishing reel history, see a little bit about the common or current trends in the fishing industry, and well, add to your overall understanding of fishing in general and fishing reel service and repair in particular. Well, I started by removing this little retainer cup that goes over your handle screw. And you don't need to take the handle off immediately, but I always find that it's kind of easy to do it here. I'm going to leave the handle on because I'm not quite sure what the attachment is with the gear below. This is a smaller or narrow frame, narrow diameter reel. It's almost exactly what it says it should be. It's for jigging. It's for high-speed retrieve. It's an interesting little reel all around, and again, I don't know who made the reel. It's really not that important, but what is important is keeping these reels serviced. Well, I'm backing off the pre-spool adjuster. There we go. Took a while there. Wow. And that adjuster will free up the inner spool here. This adjuster's got a lot of dirt on it. That could be a little bit of an issue there. A lot of dry greases and debris in this. And as we do with all of our reel services, you want to take the reel apart. You want to inspect the pieces and parts. You want to take the time to take pictures and take notes. You want to know where the installation is of the pieces, what the orientation of those pieces are, and well, how they came apart so that you can reverse the process to put it back together again. So we've cleaned up the button. We notice that there's a hex opening on there and then the screw holes underneath. On this side then we have the adjuster lever. You do not need to remove the adjuster lever. If you did, if there was something going wrong inside of there, you can. There is a little snap ring clip here that's holding that on, but for a normal service that does not need to be moved. There's a handle now, and then there's some Torx screws, and I'm going to be using a palm driver that I have with the Torx bit on there. You could use a Torx screwdriver if you happen to have that. Mine just came out of a multi-bit set that goes along with the palm driver. And we're going to remove these, and as we do, we want to make sure that all of these screws in the side plate are the same size. It's kind of a lifetime of learning that tells me that every now and then there's a spot on a reel where the manufacturer needs to put a longer screw or a shorter screw. And you want to note where that is, because when you go to reinstall, if there's a different screw, you want to make sure that it's put back in its proper place. A longer screw can damage whatever's on the other side of it that they've been trying to avoid the contact with. A shorter screw, well, it just won't catch, won't hold it in place. Right now these all appear to be the same size, so it doesn't look like we have much of an issue with that. We should be able to remove this side. I haven't got that screw out, but this side should come out now. There we go. And now I can poke that fourth one through. And we can see it's been quite some time since this reel has been maintained, if it ever was. It's been running a little rough, so the individual who owns the reel brought it in, said, I think it's time for service. I would tend to agree with him. All right, we have a little plate here. This should just come off. Famous last words, should just. And yeah, there's a lot of dirt and debris inside. So here's your mechanics of a lever drag reel. You have a pressure plate that's going to be putting the pressure onto your drag washer here. The drag washer is going to be pulled into this plate by the lever. That's going to put the varying pressures on there to enable it to lock down and give you the drag that you're looking for. All right, this plate should come off now. Again, take the pictures. No, that's the side of the plate. We have a bearing here. Looks like we have some kind of an extension or a washer behind this. Then we have our pinion gear. One side is tapered, the other side is full. And then we have the main gear, so now we can take this off without worry that, well, there might be something hiding on the other side of the main gear that we don't know about. Normally I would put these right into my parts tray, but we're going to clean all of these up before we return them there. And that way we know that everything has been cleaned and processed. Take pictures. Take pictures along the way. You just remove the handle and the handle nut. And when I've cleaned the pieces and parts, they go into a parts tray. I use that parts tray as my holding place, my repository for the parts that have been removed. You should have a plan for what you're going to do once you remove the parts. Don't come up with a plan after parts are laying all over the place and you don't know what to do with them. Push through on this, it'll bring the main gear out. Also had the bearing fall out. And it appears that this does have an instant anti-reverse clutch in there. And it also has a lot of dirt and debris. So that's one of the issues that you have when you have open-faced or conventional reels. There's no way to keep the dirt and debris out of the reel. It's going to come in on the sides of the spools, among other places. It's going to bring in with it whatever's been around there. Micro sands, micro salt, dirt and debris. This goes on top of here. And you can see that hiding in the dirt. And all of that stuff will clog a reel and will result in poor performance of the reel. So you need to make sure that you take the time, keep this clean, keep it serviced on a regular basis, which I recommend at 1 year, an annual service. Do all of that and the reel should keep lasting. As you can see, it's a relatively simple reel. That's one of the advantages of a lever drag reel. The principles are pretty simple, and it's not something that just got developed in the last decade or so. These reels have been around a very long time. It's just that they became popular with braid because you could reduce down the size of your reel because there was so much more capacity with braid. All right, that got all cleaned up there. We cleaned up the bearing. Give it a spin. Make sure that the bearing is operating as it should. Put the bearing right back in the case. Snap it in. And then a healthy drink of oil. This is not a sealed bearing. It's a shielded bearing. And the oil will seep in there. I also want to take a moment here. This does have an anti-reverse clutch. I just want to run a cotton swab around it. Make sure that all the dirt and debris is out of here as well. There's a spacer here as well. So you have a spacer and then you have the anti-reverse clutch behind that. Well, essentially that's all you need to do on the gear side. Once you've cleaned it, once you've inspected it, and once you've re-lubricated it, it's just basically reinstall it. Kind of interesting and easy, right? All right. The last part we want to do on this and the cleaning part of that gear side, grab a bristle brush You can use a toothbrush. You can use a multi-pack from the local hardware store or home center. I think I got these at Home Depot. They're in the paint aisle. Check all the teeth. Make sure they're uniform and clean. Now this one was giving me a little bit of a hiccup when I was testing. I'm thinking maybe some of that dirt that we wiped away there got stuck in the teeth and was causing a little bit of a speed bump. It could have been on this one, but it can also be on that pinion gear because that pinion gear is very dirty as well. A good amount of fishing wheel grease. Please only use the fishing wheel grease when you go to lubricate a reel. It's designed for marine use. And although people ask me for substitutes, can I use gun greases and sewing machine greases and all kinds of things like that, the general answer is you are better off using a product that's been designed for fishing reels. Alright, just reinstalled that. I kept the shaft clear because this is an anti-reverse. You shouldn't have greases and oils on that shaft because that's a friction device. This comes back on. The handle goes back on. The handle screw goes back on. So essentially what we're doing is we're just replacing it kind of the way that we took it off. It's a reverse sequence. And again, this holds true regardless of what reel you're working on. Alright, tighten that down. I'm sure we're going to have to sync up with the holes here for the collar. But for now, that is done. It's a big piece. It doesn't need to go into the parts tray. And we're going to do the same thing now with that pinion gear. I just saw something come off there, right there. That may have been what that little hiccup was. Let's get that off my bench. Two different sizes on this. We noted that the inset side goes into the plate here. I'll wipe the plate down. And I use paper towels because it doesn't transfer junk and debris from one project to the next. You're going to notice on the back end of this pressure plate there's a bearing. You can test that again. Same idea. Oil that bearing. Let it seep in. And then from this side, we want to take the inset side. And I like to put it in this way as opposed to putting it into the main gear and trying to match the other way. And then a good amount of grease onto our pinion gear to complete the lubrication on that piece. Once that's done, we can go put that back into the reel. This piece seats into your bearing. Just like that. And you can see now as we turn, it's cranking and will move your spool. The other side of this is that we'll be all set for the reinstall there. Okay, same idea here. Now this is grease that I can simply take off with a clean paper towel. If you needed something more, use a product like a WD-40 or penetrating oil to loosen some of that grease. There's rod and reel cleaners you can use. There's other things. But generally as a degreaser, I would prefer a penetrating oil. All right, this is cleaned. Let's take a look at the spool then. And again, almost every lever drag reel that you have is going to have a similar setup. We have a spring now. That spring is what's going to compress, provide the tension against the operation of the lever. Now we have a retention ring. So find the end of the ring that's holding the drag washer in. Bring that up and around. Hold that because that's a very big ring. It's also a spring, so that spring can fly off if you're not paying attention. Put that in the parts tray for safekeeping along with that spring. Push out on our usually we can push out. We have a collar here that's not going to let me do that. So let's get this. You want to get to the two bearings in the spool. Again, you want to check them for performance, and you want to oil them as part of the lubrication process. So the reel looks familiar, but I can't put a name on it. I don't know who made it. But the internals look very familiar. Most of the time, if you're buying a trade reel, it's not going to be some creative kind of approach. It's going to be kind of more of a boilerplate type of an approach for those reels. All right, I'm going to push that up and out. Push out the bearing on the other side. Do the same thing. Test. I like to test by holding the inner race and turning the bearing. Once you're convinced that it's in good working order, go ahead and put that back. You can do the same thing on this side. Again, just test this one on the spool shaft. You don't need to remove any more of that. You did take a note that the one with the 3 holes in it is the back side of the spool, which is what we just pulled out. Reset that. We're going to put a little bit on this side as well. It's got a double seal there. Like that little collar. This is where you need to be careful with these. If you're like me and you don't do very well with the small screws, just be patient. And if you do put them on the table like I just put on the table, keep one eye on them at all times, because it's real easy to brush those away. And it's not real easy to find those small pieces and parts. All right, I'm just taking a moment here. I need to loosen this a little bit to properly align the other 2 holes. And while I'm doing that, if you have any questions on this reel or any reel, maybe you're working on one and you're stuck, maybe you want to know a little bit more about how a reel operates, maybe you want to know a little bit more about trade reel manufacturers, who's making them, and so on, just leave those questions in the comments section. Also, leave your suggestions for videos you would like to see in the comments section. I take a lot of my inspiration from requests of our viewers. I'd be happy to try and help you along with that. All right, I just want to take a moment and check to see if this drag washer is actually removable. A lot of times they're not. This one is. This one has a cross-hatched pattern on it, and it actually has a second side that you can use should the first side wear out. First thing you want to do on one of these is wipe off the old grease and check to see that you can see all the cross-hatching on here, that it's not worn down. These are in good condition. I'm going to do the fellow a favor. I'm going to flip this over, but there's certainly plenty of life left on the other side. We'll just make it a new drag washer to him. I'm going to take our collar clamp, start that on the one side, hold it. This is the dangerous part where you can shoot this thing to the next planet. And there you go. Once you reinstall the ring there, let's put our bearing back on and our little spring. That completes the spool surface. After you're done greasing your main gear, but before you install that, remember that we have that Teflon washer that goes beneath. We can bring the main gear on and through and set that in. Next up then, we want to do the same thing we did with the other, with the pinion gear. Just grab that brush and pull through. Inspect all the teeth on here. And once you notice that they're all in good condition, what you'd like to do is re-grease this side. And I use an artist brush here. It's just a flat brush, but I like the artist brush. They don't shed the hairs, and overall I find that it's a great convenience to have it there. All right, align your pinion gear into your pressure plate. Once that side is loaded, turn it around, put it into your bearing. Wipe your pinion gear clean. We can turn that over and come back now and install the handle. Use finger strength to do as much of the work as you can with this. This part always gets a little tricky, so I like to hold this up and keep pressure on that little plate there. The real seat is going to be to the plate. And what we need to do then is to line up the holes in our frame to the holes in the case. Okay, I think we have that. Since we know all four of these are the same, just get one in there so you can take the tension off of your hand. Probably should have reversed the throw on this. Not an easy thing to do. Bring that in, and then we can alternate with the tensions on the other sides. So let's go to the one on the base here. And the last thing will be to install our tension adjuster. Give this thing a test and see how we did. One more screw. So again, the principles on these are very similar across almost all of these mini or micro lever drag reels. The principles are the same essentially in all level drag reels, but this is a no-name or Jigging World trade reel. The service is very similar to all of the others. So before I put that last piece on, I want to see if we can get never easy. I think we have to back this off a little bit. That's almost it. And those two small tension retainer screws go on. And for whatever reason, they did Torx on the one, and they're doing Phillips head on this. Okay, there's one that ties down, and the other ties down. Well, the only piece that remains then is the free spool adjuster. This has got a cam on it. It's got the hex side that's going to inset over the nut here. And it's got the two ramps on it, these two pins. And you want to find the valley for those pins. One is right here. The other is over here. So it is important when you do this to do a couple of things. I like to bring the free spool over to the free spool area. I want to align the pins with those valleys. And then you need to align the hex before you can tighten this down. Okay, it's all back together again. We skipped ahead a little bit, but the adjuster's back on, properly adjusted. We're in free spool. Let's give it a test. It spins nice and free and easy. Let's go into first strike. Second strike, or max drag. Max drag's holding nicely, and that's it. So that's how you take apart, you service and repair specifically a Jigging World Karasu, the Micro Jigging 1000H, but more importantly, that's how you service almost all of the lever drags that are out on the marketplace that are like this. It applies to almost all of them. Just as a good practice, make sure that you take pictures along the way. You document when you took the pieces out, the orientation, and the sequences, so that when it's time to reinstall, you reinstall them properly. I hope you've enjoyed that. Before I leave, I want to thank our first responders, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. Truly appreciate your efforts every day, all the time. I also appreciate everybody who's been watching. I want to thank you for your channel loyalty, for your viewership, and for your suggestions. Again, leave your questions and comments in the section below. And if you have an idea for a video that you would like to see, please leave that there as well. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle, thanking everybody, wishing everybody a great day.